Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen and welcome to the latest edition of SecondsOut ReFLEXions. We're here every Monday at 4:30 PM to discuss recent events in the world of boxing. And I can't tell you how relieved I am, no, not to get a haircut, although that is high up on the list, but to have UK boxing back, both in venues, although no fans allowed as yet, and on TV, which is where I watched it on Friday night. Frank Warren, the first promoter to bring boxing back, staged it at BT Studios, appropriate enough as it's on BT Sport, with the thrilling main event, as it turned out, as Brad Foster secured the British super bantamweight title, Lonsdale belt, outright, and retained also the Commonwealth title against a spirited James Beech Jr. in what was a thrilling main event 12-rounder. Won on decision fairly, I thought, in favour of Foster, but a very close fight, and Beech's reputation and standing will have risen as a result of how hard he pushed him. Two very talented, intelligent, busy operators, fast hands, impressive footwork, particularly so for Foster, who comes from a kickboxing background. And I think it was probably Foster's extra kind of physical strength, maturity and stamina, so the experience of going that 12-round distance in the past, that saw him through at the end as he pulled away slightly and secured the decision, as well as the Lonsdale belt, of course. So that's the positive side, and I think also just the fact that boxing's back. The presentation was very good. Some of the highlights packages to build up the fights were excellent. I thought Paul Dempsey was very good at helming the whole thing. David Haye, you either like him or you hate him, I think. You know, he's not too bad, but he kind of... he's a huge self-promoter. It's one of the things he was known for throughout his own career, and that's translated to the punditry arena. I think there was one point where he was comparing Hamza Shiraz, great prospect, and I've said so myself, but comparing him to the likes of Nassim Hamed and Canelo, and I just thought it was a bit much, you know, heaping a lot of pressure on the 21-year-old's admittedly broad shoulders. But that aside, I thought commentary was good. Got Richie Woodall and John Rawling. John Rawling's a safe pair of hands, very good play-by-play man. I would have preferred him alongside someone like Barry Jones. I thought the Rawling-Jones partnership that we used to see on Box Nation was excellent, to be honest. Probably the best partnership, commentary partnership in boxing. So I'm a bit disappointed that hasn't been resumed as yet. That's not a knock on Richie. I think he's good too, but maybe just a little too similar to John Rawling. And also, I think he's more suited with his technical expertise. Richie is more suited to the punditry side more so than commentary. But there, I'm just nitpicking. The action itself was good, particularly the main event. Shiraz, the aforementioned hot prospect, like a Canelo or a Hamed apparently, he kind of beat down Paul Keane, it's fair to say. Paul Keane came in at 12-1, I think was his record, and I think we all expected Shiraz to win, and even to be impressive in doing so, because he has been in the past. But Keane put up not a great deal of resistance. Actually, maybe that's a little unfair. Resistance is exactly what he did put up. But he was kind of, after round 4, round 5, he was kind of a human punching bag, it's fair to say. He kind of didn't seem to have much gas in the tank at that point. Shiraz had taken it out of him with some bit heavy shots, particularly to the body. Must have sapped his energy. But Keane never seemed particularly ambitious after the first round or two. Probably struggled to get inside those long levers of Shiraz. Keane, 6'1", I think, to Shiraz's 6'3", so probably used to being the taller man at super welterweight, but wasn't in this fight. It turned out to be more one-sided than I was anticipating. And then the 3 fights underneath, obviously British Boxing Board of Control rules, 5 fights maximum per show at the moment. They combined to have, I think it was 5 rounds of action, 5 completed rounds. So that wasn't great. I mean, we all expected it. It was like that on paper. But I think going forward, we want to see more shows that are evenly matched down the card rather than prospects versus journeymen or prospects versus imports who haven't got a great deal of chance of winning. Looking at the Frank Warren BT schedule going forward, I think that is going to evolve in a positive direction. So that's good. And Fight Camp 2 with Matchroom, I think, will be more along those lines. So for a first show back, I'll give it a kind of 3 out of 5. But I think... definitely want to see more evenly matched undercards going forward. There was also a lot of debate, artificial crowd noise or no crowd noise at all. BT seemed to be experimenting throughout the show, going back and forth between the two. I didn't love having no sound apart from the boxers themselves. It seemed more like watching a spar at the gym or amateur fight with a really, really small crowd. You could hear everything the corners were saying. You could hear the thwack, if you like, I prefer that to slap, of leather on skin. But I preferred that to the artificial crowd noise, which I felt was cheesy and out of place. What I would like, really, in an ideal world, would be something like they do at the moment in WWE, in the wrestling, is that they have other members of the roster, so other wrestlers who aren't competing, they have them all dotted around ringside so they can create a bit of noise, create a bit of atmosphere, the camera can pan to their reactions when necessary. You know, you might think that's a bit cheesy as well, but I think that adds a certain something, and it's not faked either. You know, which is a strange thing to say about wrestling, a lot of you will say, but it's not faked in that the people out there are still cheering good performances or complaining about substandard ones. So there's a bit of authenticity there, and I think that would work pretty well in boxing, even if it was just kind of the boxers' teams or their management, or, you know, a small select number of fans. As long as everyone was wearing masks and they were socially distanced, I don't see a big problem with that. There is a problem with that, however, doing that at BT Studios, because I think there's a maximum of 65 people allowed in for each event. Even Frank Warren himself wasn't able to attend. So I don't think we're going to see that on the BT shows. That's fair enough, but maybe something like that could be put in place for the fight camp shows, the Matchroom ones, and maybe Mick Hennessy's as well, which is towards the end of August. It'd be really good to see that. I think that would work pretty well in the boxing environment. It would just add a bit of extra. I found there were times, particularly during the undercard in the one-sided fights, where my attention started to wander, and I think a bit of crowd noise, a bit of enthusiasm, it's infectious, and it might get the viewer more involved as well. Time will tell. But great performance from Brad Foster. He's now secured that belt. There's no need to rush him. He's still only 22 years old, but the form he's on, he's kind of cleaned up to an extent domestically. Is it time for him to move on to European sort of level? That's for the team to decide, but I don't think he'd be outclassed at that level, so it'd be interesting to see. James Beech, as I said, he can come again. Hamza Shiraz, definitely ready for a step up. He deserves now, I would say, to test himself against that mix at the top of the domestic tree. We, of course, see Sam Eggington and Ted Cheeseman go at it, hopefully head on, at the start of fight camp at the beginning of August. So that's a mouth-watering prospect in itself. So the likes of those guys, Anthony Fowler, Scott Fitzgerald, of course, I'd like to see Shiraz kind of step up now and get involved in that mix. He is only 21. He's not long made changes to his training team, but he just looks a real unique talent. And I think we're only going to find out just how good he is by matching him a bit tougher now. So I'd like to see that as well. Obviously, I want to know what you guys think. What did you make of the whole show, the presentation, how it's put together, and the action itself? You know, how well it was matched. What did you make of the fight quality, the prospects, even though they might not have been in the ring for long? What did you make of how they performed? I thought David Adelaide, for example, looked great despite getting his opponent out there in round 2. And Mark Chamberlain as well in round 1, I think. But it'd be good to hear what you guys think. And Shiraz, of course, how far can he go? How impressed are you with him so far? I'm quite high on him as a prospect, but maybe I'm overrating him. Maybe I just find his style particularly pleasing. Let me know what you think. I'll be back next week, Monday, of course, for the next ReFLEXions at 4:30 and the same time on Thursday for FlexPectations. Really appreciate your time, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.